So I saw this movie yesterday, right? And I really want to talk about it because for once we're early. Like usually our reviews come out and everyone has already said their opinion. But this movie is coming out today at the time of recording in the United States, and it's the new Guy Ritchie movie, In the Grey.
Manny Salazar. He's not really the guy you loan $1 billion and expect to see it back.
You think you can recover it?
You know I can. And this job, when mistakes are made, you need insurance. Kids, don't say a word. Follow me.
So depending on when this review comes out, we might be one of the first channels to talk about this. Whatever, but like, have you heard of this movie before, Tyler?
I've not heard of this at all. Guy Ritchie just seems to be like pumping out like so much stuff these days that this goes so under the radar.
Oh my god, since 2019 or so, he's been pushing out like 2 movies a year or something, and like TV shows. He's like the hardest working man in show business.
Or is he?
or
Because I've seen some of these movies that have come out recently.
do you think he's not putting much work into them?
I don't know. Typically, when you're pumping out movies that often, there's going to be some, I don't know. Maybe you weren't, this isn't your creative endeavor that you've been excited to work on for years and years, and you've been working to get this made for a long time. I don't know. Maybe that is the case with some of these. But for me, Guy Ritchie has never hit the heights of his earlier films. And, you know, I love his earlier movies.
Oh my god, yeah.
There's some bright spots throughout the rest of his career, but he's not a director who I'm clambering to see his next films at all anymore.
Yeah, me neither. I usually used to, like, I always wanted to see the new Guy Ritchie movie, and I've seen most of them. I'm looking at his filmography now, and like, you know, I'm missing some of the more recent ones, but I did see The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Welfare, which has some overlap in casting to the movie that we are talking about today. But yeah, like, so many movies. This year alone is releasing In the Grey, and apparently there's another movie in post-production that should come out in 2026 called Wife and Dog, and there's another one that's filming right now.
He can't even be bothered to come up with proper titles. He's like, oh, fuck it, Wife and Dog.
So, In the Grey, 2026 action movie starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Henry Cavill, and Eiza Gonzalez. And, you know, I kept seeing this trailer, so I was like, okay, new action thriller. There's a hot lady in it. There's Jake Gyllenhaal, one of my favorite actors. Henry Cavill, I really like him. I know you don't really like Henry Cavill that much, but like, I think he's fun.
I like him. I just don't. I think he lacks range in
Yeah.
the acting department.
He's good in certain roles, and he has, you know, he can be charming, and he's charismatic.
And also, annoyingly, fan casting, people put him in everything. They're like, oh, wouldn't he be great as this?
Just because he's a big
strong
guy.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, no, this is a character with serious emotional range. It's like, Henry Cavill would be the worst choice for this.
I sent you like one of those AI casting videos recently for Invincible, and he was cast as Omni-Man, and you went on a fucking rant, just like Omni-Man is so much cooler than Henry Cavill. What the fuck? And you know, I tend to agree.
Visually, I totally get it. It's he's great in like Mission Impossible.
Yeah, fantastic.
He's fantastic as that character, but like something like The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, which is the last Guy Ritchie film I think I've seen,
Yeah.
he is a charisma void in that film, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, especially because there's a lot of more charismatic actors and characters in that film, I think.
Yes, he gets overshadowed slightly.
I wanted to briefly compare this new movie to The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare because I think it's an interesting comparison in the sense that what I was expecting from In the Grey was kind of that. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is a very Inglourious Basterds coded period piece action movie, and it's a decently entertaining movie. It tries really hard to be cool and fun and fast-paced and like quippy dialogue, which, you know, is something that you expect in a Guy Ritchie movie. I had a pleasant enough time with that film. I do not remember almost anything that happens in it, and I have seen it recently, so again, not a great sign that this movie is actually that good. So, you know, I went into In the Grey expecting that kind of thing where, you know, Jake Gyllenhaal and Henry Cavill are the two charismatic leads. They play off each other, and they have like this very fun dynamic, and they do some espionage stuff and they kill some dudes and it's a fun time for everyone. But this is not really that. This is a weird movie, man. It's a strange film because it doesn't really feel like a Guy Ritchie film, which, you could say about a bunch of Guy Ritchie movies.
Yeah. He's kind of moved a bit of away from his he definitely had more of an auteur style in his earlier work.
It is a very dry film in the sense that even Jake Gyllenhaal and Henry Cavill, yes, they are charismatic, but they're not really, they are introduced chatting to each other and they're like in front of a door, and it's very reminiscent of the introduction of Jules and Vincent in Pulp Fiction. So even then you're like expecting them to have that dynamic, at least like a resemblance of that dynamic, but they don't really. What they say is not funny, it's not particularly quippy. Yeah, they make fun of each other and they have some banter, but it's not hugely interested in that. It's a very interested in telling you this story and it does so through incessant voiceover from Eiza Gonzalez,
Right.
who explains everything in the story. And the first 20 minutes of this movie were fucking torture. I will try to explain this to you in less words than she does, because, oh my God, what happens in this film? So they basically are like a group of operatives that deal with dangerous situations and people. And at the beginning of the movie, we're introduced to this character called Salazar, who owns an island, is an incredibly rich man, like a businessman of some kind. He's not really like a criminal. He doesn't do like drug trafficking or anything like that, but he does do some shady stuff. And he steals like $1 billion from this firm in New York where Rosamund Pike is kind of like one of the head people there. Rosamund Pike then hires this Eiza Gonzalez character who's like she's not a lawyer, she's not like she's like a very knowledgeable person of like legal stuff, and she has this team of people, like she has a team of lawyers that help her with like the above board kind of stuff, and then she has like a team of assassins and mercenaries to help her with like the not so legal stuff that she does to get this money back from this guy. So, they work in the gray, and that's why the title of the movie is In the Gray, because they work in that gray zone between, legality and illegality and whatever, like they game the system and they try to get this money back. First with legal means, trying to freeze the assets of this guy, make his life very difficult so that at the end of the day, he has to kind of like give in and give back this money to the firm that he stole it from. Eiza Gonzalez explains this in excruciating detail throughout the first half hour of this movie. They never shut up. They literally never shut up until at one point, of course, the movie turns into pure action because they have to extract Eiza Gonzalez from this island, and they have this plan that they laid out in the first half of the movie where they have like different escape routes that they can go through to get this woman to safety. And of course everything goes wrong, but they're very professional. Henry Cavill and Jake Gyllenhaal are very professional guys and they do it. Spoiler alert, they manage to save this woman and then the movie ends. So yeah, I don't know, did any of that what I said made sense to you, or does it sound interesting at all?
It sounds very modern Guy Ritchie.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
It's just like, I don't know, man. And I had this interesting conversation with the friend I went to see this movie with, because I was venting about some of the stuff that I didn't like, pretty much like I'm doing with you now. And he was like, but I think you're missing the point. When I complained that like the characters were kind of paper thin, you don't get any sense of what the relationship is between Henry Cavill and Jake Gyllenhaal outside of, oh, they work together and they kind of like each other, but not really. You don't know where they come from. They briefly tell you that Eiza Gonzalez found them in a prison somewhere and she set them free and now they work for her and they're very loyal. And that's the relationship. It's very basic, bare bones, kind of like character building just to get to the action stuff. And I was complaining that, I didn't really feel the characters. I didn't really care for them. And it was like, but what if the intention of Guy Ritchie with this movie is not really to present to you like a set of fun characters, but just to create this situation and show you very good operatives very tactically approach each situation.
Right, yeah. I mean, like, did you watch Warfare in the end?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, so not obviously to the level of realism that has, I'm sure, but that kind of sacrifices character over realism to a degree.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's realistic, but it's definitely not like as crazy with the action as like it's not a Michael Bay movie, like it's
Yeah, and I mean, again, referencing like Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare or like The Gentleman, these, more recent Guy Ritchie films, like the characters are so caricature-y.
Yeah.
It feels like it's out of a over-the-top comic book or something like that, and it's, the characters are very rarely grounded. They're over the top.
Yeah, no, this is very different. It's an interesting question to pose when you're also, like you're reviewing media, you're talking about movies, and maybe sometimes we criticize a film for something that film was never intended to do. And maybe you're basing your criticism on something that you were expecting, but that the movie didn't want to deliver in that way. But I did feel that the characters were a bit lacking in characterization. They were a bit basic, and the movie was way more interested in portraying these scenarios. Like, I'll give you an example. Early on in the film, Eiza Gonzalez goes to this Salazar character. They do a deal, but the Salazar guy, he is really mad because he has to give her all this money. So he sends his goons after them. Eiza Gonzalez, she's with Jake Gyllenhaal. She decides, she's like, oh, I need a beer. Let's stop for a beer. And they go into this bar and they sit down and they order a beer. And of course, while they're there, one after the other, a bunch of goons, they come in and they start like sitting in different places in this bar and tension rises. It's kind of like that scene from Captain America Winter Soldier when, in the elevator, every floor, the elevator stops and some new goons come in and you're like, oh my God, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But that scene is brilliant because it's silent, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of understand that Steve Rogers is piecing it together. Some shit is about to go down. But in this scene, there's no moment of silence because they're with their earpiece, they're in like constant connection with each other. Jake Gyllenhaal, Henry Cavill, and all the other operatives that they have on their team. Like, oh, two hostiles are just entered from the bar. Oh, two hostiles just sat in the table at the back. Oh, two hostiles are coming from here. And like they keep talking. And I feel like, in my version of that scene, there would be no talking. But since Guy Ritchie wanted to give like a realistic take on that, of course they would be talking and communicating constantly where the bad guys are so that they can coordinate the defense and the attack and the extraction of the lady. So like they do this and it's very, I guess, true to reality the way they do it, and it's a very well choreographed scene. But like I felt like the tension was kind of rising, but they kept talking to each other, and that didn't help like the movie kind of like sell that moment to me.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of moments like that where they keep communicating stuff to each other. You know what's happening and what's gonna happen because we can't escape from here because there's guards over here, so we need to explode this wall in the back. But
Oh God.
because they have like a explosive guy, of course they do.
Yeah, of course.
But
This character's usually like a French revolutionary. He's like always smoking a cigarette. Maybe he's got like a bandana on. His uniform's a bit messy and a bit different.
no, it's just a guy. In this case, it's just a guy.
It's just a guy.
But he's the explosives guy, and you know that he set up the bomb at the back of this prison so that he can explode that wall in case they need it. So you're not like, oh my God, they're trapped. How are they gonna get out of here? Because oh yeah, they told me before that they have a contingency plan to explode the wall in the back and escape from there. To be fair, if you gave this premise to another director, maybe they would have done something completely different. So to an extent, this is a very Guy Ritchie film, even though it's not the Guy Ritchie film that I would expect from Guy Ritchie, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's fair. Would you recommend then?
I mean, it is entertaining.
To be honest, no matter what you say, I'm not gonna watch this.
Fair.
You've already sold me on it not being necessarily worthwhile.
If you want to watch some well done action, just come in halfway through. Because the first half is just Eiza Gonzalez monologuing about all the ways that she is screwing this guy, both legally and illegally, and why it's important. And I don't think it's really interesting ending, and I was really annoyed with the movie because, and this is my pet peeve. I should have said this at the beginning. I hate movies that overuse voiceover to explain stuff. I much rather have in-scene explanations or, try to convey stuff visually. And I know it's difficult to convey this kind of stuff visually, but it's like they don't trust the audience to follow, and that's why they keep explaining stuff through voiceover, and I found it very annoying.
Yeah, that sounds painful. Yeah.
Not recommended, but if you're a fan of action, maybe you will get something out of it.
Yeah, nice.
They operate in the gray.
Show me what you got.